Why is Christianity so exclusive? Why should I choose a God who doesn't choose everybody?
Yeah, it's a great question. So exclusivity. So one of the big kind of philosophies of postmodernism and Canadian nicety kind of religion and worldview today is, you can have your truth, and I'll have my truth, but let's not ruin kind of Christmas dinner by claiming your truth is better than my truth. We all have our truths is kind of a popular, it's true for you, but not for me.
Right.
And so Christianity comes along and says this interesting thing. It is only through me that you get to the Father. That in Acts chapter 4, Peter gets up and says, Jesus is the only name under heaven by which people can be saved. And people say that's so judgmental, that's so exclusivistic. But the reality is this: truth is by its very nature exclusive. Okay, so if I was to say to you right now, I'm wearing green socks, and then in 10 minutes from now I said to you I'm wearing blue socks, one of those statements is true, or neither of them are true, but they both can't both be true at the same time. And so what philosophers call this is, they say it's the mistake of what's called metaphysical pluralism. It's basically this: we live in a pluralistic culture. So you and I are Christians who are living beside people of all religions, all races. We're doing life together, and we would fight for their right to believe whatever they want to believe, to worship however we want to do that. And I will march with that. I will make sure, I will fight for my fellow people to believe what they want and have the freedom to do that. So that's pluralism. We live in a culture where we're culturally pluralistic. We have different foods and ethnicities. The difference is a metaphysical pluralism. Metaphysics is the study of basically what's true after physics. The word meta means after physics. So after the physical, the God question. When you dip into that, here's the mistake you make. You go from everyone has the right to believe what they want, which is true. You dip into, and they're right in believing it. And that's the problem, because it's just not true. Some people believe false things. And unless we say that's actually historically wrong, not just, I don't want to offend you because you believe that thing, and so let's just all hang out and pretend there's people who think we haven't landed on the moon, Kristen. So what are we going to pretend, because to not ruin Christmas dinner with crazy Uncle Joe, that we just go, yep, nope, no one's landed on the moon, Joe, and we just continue on?
Right.
No, life is about the search for what is true, not in what is convenient. And so what we want to do is go, what's actually true historically? Well, you believe Jesus rose from the dead. I believe that there's a pantheon of different gods. Oh, what do you believe? Oh, I believe that, the Bible. Okay, well, we're all true. No. Either all of us are wrong, or one of us is right, but it can't be that we're all right at the same time. And so the reality is, Christianity by its very nature is exclusive in that it says Jesus is the only way. That may be the most offensive thing to a Canadian culture, at least, because you're saying he's the only way. But literally, that's the way the gospel says it. There's truth and there's falsity, and we can't pretend just to get through life that everyone's right. Not everybody's right. And we already know this, because to people when I talk, they say, well, all religions are true. It's like, what about the religions that sacrifice children? Well, no, not that one. Okay, what about that cult under Jim Jones that made 900 people die in a single day by drinking juice? What about that? Well, no, that one's not. So now which ones? The white collar ones, the ones you're comfortable with? No, we've got to get to the point where we go, no, there's actual truth. This is what epistemology is. How did I come to know anything? It's under the assumption that there is truth, and the world is not a facade. It's not fake. It's real. And so, anyways, I talk about this in the Problem of God. I have a whole chapter dedicated to this, and I'll end with this. When I've had this dialogue with people, they say, yeah, but don't you know, and this is the classic kind of philosophical, the elephant with the four blind guys. Have you ever heard that? Mm-hmm. Four blind guys are touching an elephant, and the question is, what are you touching? And the one guy says, I'm touching a tree stump, because he's holding the leg. And another guy goes, I'm touching a hose, because he's holding the nose and another guy's touching the tail. I'm holding a broom. And people say, see, this is all of us. We're just trying to find God, and this is all of our different interpretations. But the problem, as Leslie Newbigin and other philosophers have pointed out, Alvin Plantinga, is that you're telling that story from the perspective of someone who actually knows. So it doesn't work. You're not actually in the matrix. You're telling the story from outside of it going, look, it's an elephant. Well, how do you know that? And so the question, saying we're all just trying to interpret something, it cuts its legs off by basically saying there is truth to know. And so the reality is different interpretations, sure, people are going to tweak this and tweak that, but let's not say that everyone's right in doing so. Let's just say, let's love it. Let's make sure we're fighting for the right to believe it. But let's actually, around the dinner table, say, what's actually true? Because this matters to life.
Right.
Actually knowing truth about the way the world works, the way science works, the way history works, actually matters to life and the way we live it.